Welcome to B-Real Talks. I am joined with Dr. Myra Sabir. She is a narrative psychologist and associate professor in the Department of Human Development at Binghamton University. She was native to rural Alabama until age 14 when she relocated to Atlanta, Georgia. She studied philosophy at Georgia State, theology and human development at Emory University, and human development and family studies at Cornell University, specializing in narrative repair of adverse childhood experiences. She is founder of the Life Writing Project and is currently running a life writing research project with Binghamton single mothers and BU students called Cry, Laugh, Create. She is a mother, grandmother, a vegetarian foodie, and is currently privileged to care for her 91-year-old mother. Today, we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome. Thank you so much for joining us. So, my first question for you is, how has your personal experience or identity shaped your passion for the work that you do?
Very directly. I sort of stumbled, I say accidentally, into my job doing what I was doing. A long time ago, I was responding to a trauma myself, a personal trauma. And my sort of instinctive reaction was to go back to my earliest memory and write through them to try to make sense of myself. The traumatic experience made me think I really didn't understand myself very well. And so I had this instinctive response, and I spent weeks and weeks just writing through my life story. Anybody who knows me has heard this story a million times, but at the end of it, I felt so integrated and just clear. It was just I could feel throughout my entire body and being that I was different. So it was a huge experience that I became very curious about. I started studying, and I'm trying to understand what happened and what was this going on. And I found, obviously, a research community who, understood this, what we call integrative reminiscence, life review processes. It led to my going back to graduate school and doing my first research project with urban African-American adults. It led me to my PhD program. One thing sort of linked to another, one thing leading me to the next. I didn't plan it in advance. And then that, of course, led me to my position here at the university as a narrative psychologist and teaching narrative psychology and other things related around, how adverse childhood experiences affect us across the lifespan. So it's completely directly connected to my personal experience. And I'm no less excited about it today than I was 25 years ago. So.
Yeah, I think that's amazing how you were able to really, really insert your entire identity right into the work that you do, and no one's really going to question your passion. I know just talking to you briefly, I can see it come through, and I think it's amazing that you've been able to make a career path out of that.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. I read a book once, I have to think of it, that basically was saying that in our career choices, we're very often trying to resolve something from our childhood. When people find it quite passionate and, sort of this ever-emerging passion and creativity is when people have connected it to their identity in some way. And I imagine you probably use that in your career counseling. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that also influences me even wanting to do this show, right? Is elevating voices of individuals that aren't always heard, right? So I think it's really important for students to kind of see that and be a part of these conversations.
Great.
So kind of looking at your, personal experience a little bit more, what does imposter syndrome kind of mean to you? And when did you notice that you had it?
Well, I'll tell you that, I learned the concept way later, right? Way later. But when I was my first undergraduate degree was at Georgia State University, and some of my classmates, or at least other students at the high school where I went, they weren't in my class, but sort of older student. I was having a conversation with one of them, and she was at Georgia State, and Georgia State is a majority white school, and so she was talking about how hard it was, and I was talking about going there, and she was warning me, oh, it's going to be so hard, and she really focused more on the academic difficulty versus any kind of, racism or anything like that. But her comment was about how difficult it was going to be, and I should really ready myself, for that. And so when I went into the university, I think I had in my mind, I was curious. I'd always been a good student. I've never had academic sort of insecurities. I just have never had them. And so I was like, what does she mean? What does she mean? It's going to be like difficult. And I remember being in, and it was a philosophy. Well, I don't know which class it was, really. I can't remember, but I remember being in a class, and I remember it was a somewhat political class where one had to really kind of think outside of just what the text was saying, try to, theorize about the reality. And I remember thinking, they're not smarter than me. I mean, I don't know how that sounds. It might not be I don't know how that sounds. But it just dawned on me and the way I thought about it was that my friend back in high school, and maybe her experience was different than mine. Of course it was, but she wasn't the first person I had heard talk like that, as if automatically if a Black person goes into a white classroom, you're at a disadvantage intellectually or academically. And I thought, that's myth, and somehow I would like to disabuse them of this idea that automatically you're going to be at a disadvantage intellectually or academically in a white classroom. It's just not in my experience. And in many, I teach kids all the time, young adults all the time. And I think there's a kind of, the propaganda has sort of sunk in a little bit too much about sort of the equivalence of capacity. And then in a real instance, though, of imposter syndrome is when I went to Cornell for my PhD. Now, I really did have imposter syndrome when I went there. I just knew they were going to say, no, we sent the letter to the wrong house. I really had that sense, I just, not in a big way, but it was there. And then one of actually the woman who was assigned to me as my mentor was from Harvard, and she was embarking on a new career in neuroscience. And she spoke of imposter syndrome. And I thought, she was a white woman. I thought, if this white woman from Harvard is here feeling an imposter syndrome, it must not be, just me, or just because I'm a brown person here. It's just something that we come up with, we make up in our heads about, our right to be in places or our, ability to be in places. So I remember kind of shucking the ideas, like, if she's feeling insecure, because I thought she was very, very smart, and she was. It's just not something to be take too seriously. That's kind of that's my imposter syndrome story.
Yeah, that's super relatable to me. I do mention on one of these episodes that when I was going for my PhD, that was the height of my imposter syndrome. So it's interesting how those kinds of programs can really draw that out in people. Yes.
Yeah. I think the high expectations, too, you think, ooh, am I going to be able to do it? And it was a new world for me. It really was.
Yeah. And kind of looking at work settings, are there certain work responsibilities or settings that cause you to feel like an imposter more than others?
I have to say no. You sent me the question in advance, and I thought about that, but I have to say no. And the reason I say that is because I am doing my passion, right? If I were in a job that I was doing for the money, or who knows, status, or who knows, whatever reasons people find themselves in jobs, or just in a job to pay the rent, not that that's the bad thing, it's important. I think all those other things would matter, but I'm literally doing what I cannot believe I get paid to do this. And somebody gave me an office and, a place to come and just do my work. And it doesn't even enter my consciousness. I am just doing my work, and it just doesn't play within my work, because I am grateful to have found my way into just being myself. It is my identity. I could just be myself at work, and I'm not trying to prove myself to anybody. I'm just trying to do my work as best I can. So it just doesn't feature in my job. And I do think that's connected to the fact that I'm doing my passion,
Mm-hmm. And when you were kind of in that PhD program, would you say that it impacted your performance at all, or not so much?
No, I mean, could I say it made me work harder? I don't know. I'm a hard worker anyway. I've been in the academic life is the one I've lived my entire life. I read all, it's my world. I had emotional feelings around it, I think, kind of second guessing myself for a while, until I had done enough of it to teach myself that I'm okay here. Oh, I'm fine. I'll be fine. Until I had enough experiences to convince myself that I would be fine there. It was always lurking. But it didn't determine whether I got up and did my work or kept my schedule, every day. I did my schedule. All the things that I had to do in a day, I did them. Yeah, I don't know if that's useful, but yeah, no, I just lived with it, watched it, but it didn't alter what I did in a day or in a course or my work. Anything.
Okay, so then how did it impact you?
Well, I can tell you the sense I've made of it. Maybe I'm jumping ahead to one of your questions, but I would say to students that if you're having imposter syndrome, it's because you have stepped outside your boundaries. You've stretched your boundaries. You've gone beyond what you have done before. And that's a good thing. So, in terms of how it impacted me, it was just this experience, that I can't remember now. Maybe if I were there, maybe there were some ways that it altered my behavior, but it didn't alter my behavior in the moment. In retrospect, and if I had to give any advice to students, I would prevent their suffering around it by saying, it's a good thing. It is evidence that you have stepped outside of what you're accustomed to. You're pushing yourself to the next limit. And, everybody experiences some insecurity in a new environment, and when they're trying something that they've never done before, So I think if you're feeling that, then you need to pat yourself on the back and say, this is a winning thing here. This is me moving toward, moving beyond what I have accomplished to try to accomplish something different. And I can live with it, and eventually that'll shake away, and hopefully you'll find another boundary, that you want to step into, that you have to feel some insecurity around,
Yeah, it's I see the parallels between how you're talking about it with the distinctions that are made between fixed and growth mindset, yes. Right? Of really pushing yourself, right? So if you're in a workspace and you kind of don't feel that sense of being uncomfortable, right, or working through something, then maybe you need to kind of see out different responsibilities, right? And so you can grow and push yourself further.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't heard this term, but yeah, terminology, but yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to express.
Yeah. So kind of, would you say though that you are receptive to certain leadership styles over others, or kind of what's the best kind of workspace for you?
Yeah, that's another place where I've been really, really, lucky, blessed, whatever words people tend to use. And I always think that, everything is an interaction. You're always half the equation, right? You don't go into a situation and the situation is just imposed upon you. You come into the situation and there's a situation and the two of you are in interaction, right? So because I've followed my passion, I haven't come into experiences with this sort of, I guess, apologetic attitude. I'm not apologizing for being here. I have something to bring. And I'm doing something that I believe is very important. And so even in graduate school, I had a mentor who I adore, was just responsive to me. He was like, you need an office? I'll get you an office. You got to write some papers. Let's get some papers written. Really a mentor too, scaffolding me in ways that I needed as a graduate student. As you know, you need a mentor. And so I had that. But the leadership style is really kind of like not I guess a scaffolding mentor relationship is what I thrive under. I remember a situation back when I was young in a position, and the boss had this kind of authoritarian thing, and I remember looking at her like, this is weird, But I don't do that, but just mentoring, and as a professor. Professors are basically like entrepreneurs. You come in, you have your own show, and you are responsible for your own production. You develop your courses, you teach your courses, you run your research projects. And, the university provides resources, it provides scaffolding, it provides mentoring, so for me, I like to work independently. I have my own ideas. I tend to communicate and try to, I like to be a team player. I like to, feel like I'm doing my part on a team. But yeah, non-hierarchical mentoring kind of relationships are what I thrive under.
Yeah, those are great leadership styles in general, I feel, to really help people meet their level of excellence too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And an off the cuff question here. So you've been able to work in a field you're very passionate about. Do you have advice for students that are kind of struggling to do the same thing? Maybe, they're initially after graduating, they can't get into a field they're really passionate about.
Yeah, well, if you're passionate about something, there's something you can do. Now, I don't know if you'll be getting paid right away, but you have to move in the direction of your dreams. I'm quoting something on my refrigerator. You have to. I mean, there's nothing else to do. If you're passionate about something and you do something else, in my humble opinion, you're just distracting yourself from the thing that you're going to get back to anyway, because it's your passion. You're going to do that. I mean, it's at some level, in some way. Like I was. When I graduated with my PhD, I was offered a job as an assistant dean, at Cornell. And, I'm like, I had to say yes. I didn't have another job, but after 5 years, about 4.5 years, I realized this is not why I came to get my PhD. This is not my narrative work. I have to leave this job. And I did. But, and that was a great job, but that was 4.5 years away from something that I was going to do anyway, because, that's what anyway. So, but I guess I would say, whatever your passion is, keep learning about it. If there are opportunities to volunteer, find your tribe and just give yourself to it in whatever way you can. I have a spiritual element in my approach to life. I totally believe that the universe conspires to assist you. And that has been my experience. If I'm at my center following the lead of my heart, I mean, the universe has been so generous. Oh my God. And I think if you were to look at my career, it's been not easy in terms of not challenging work, but stress-free in terms of moving from one status to another. I've been following. I haven't been driving. I haven't been saying, oh, I'm going to go over here and get a job. One job. No, you need to go do that. Okay. Literally from the time I started graduate school, it's been one thing that led to the next thing. So and this is a time, I think, when what your question is very, very relevant. But giving up your passion is not an option to me. You have to still find your tribe and find ways to give yourself, if you're reading something you're excited, write something, publish it. You have, like, I remember, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, and I'm talking fast, like I always say, I'm trying not to do, but I remember being in graduate school, and there was this renowned researcher, and I was reading his stuff, and I had these questions, so I picked up the phone, and I just called him, and he answered. And we had this great conversation. And so I told my colleagues, they're like, you called him? I said, uh-huh. And I said, and he answered. And we talked. I mean, so I guess I'm just saying, just go right into your passion. Just stay with it. And I think things will unfold. That's my opinion, obviously. But I think things do. I'm not the only one. You can read this in probably career theory too, I would imagine. That if you do well what's in front of you, stay in your lane, do well what's in front of you, it will naturally lead to the next thing. That has been my experience.
Yeah, that's very, very sound advice. It's kind of like, sometimes you will have to do careers that you're not 100% invested in, but still doing that work that you're passionate about. So it's always on the side burner kind of thing, really front burner, right? Because it's your passion. And how, I like how you put that, right? You're going to end up where your passions are if you kind of really, really stick with it. Yes. So super, super insightful advice. And also another big takeaway is everyone's experience is so, fluid, dynamic, right? The way that you're describing your experience, so many different changes. Even though it may appear on the surface to be a kind of steady path, there's still all of these distinctions, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that. And in terms of the sense of it, right? Like you can think you know what's going to happen next year, but you don't. You cannot. It's not within our capacity as humans to know what's going to happen tomorrow, really, like in the next hour. We really can't, right? So for me, the trick is to do well what's in front of you. You can imagine all that stuff. That's fine. But don't shortchange the thing that's directly in front of you, right? Because that's going to feed you. It's going to, the people around you, your tribe is going to notice. They're going to say, oh, you know what I mean? It's just, so that's where you have control. That's where you have control. The rest of the stuff, don't let it distract you. Just stay in your lane, do well what's in front of you, and, enjoy it. Because like you said, it's dynamic. If you don't even know, and if you love it, you love it anyway. What's the loss? If you love it, you're doing what you love anyway, I'm sorry, I'm just going on and on here, but it's fine. It's a pretty exciting conversation.
No, I do too. I think it's amazing. And I just love how you're so willing to be very open and honest and direct about this, right? So that students can really kind of see you as the person outside of just a professor, right?
Yeah. All I am.
So thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. And to all the students watching, I will see you on the next one.